But we begin tonight with breaking news and what we think will be a significant announcement from the government pending cabinet approval on Monday. It's Section 162 of the Crimes Act, what's known as the Year and a Day law. It says, and I quote, "No one is criminally responsible for the killing of another unless the death takes place within a year and a day after the cause of death." Now, we've had cause to look at this on two occasions over the past year. The decision to not prosecute anyone for the deaths of 115 people when the CTV building collapsed in the 2011 Christchurch earthquake, and the death of youth worker George Siothi, who was punched without warning, fell down some stairs, suffered severe head injuries, but survived for over a year before dying of the injuries caused by the assault. Our producer, Michelle Cook, has been talking to the Justice Minister's office about the government's response to growing criticisms of Section 162. And shortly before we came on air, I spoke to Andrew Little.
On Monday, we'll get a proposal for a law change to the Crimes Act that effectively will repeal the 1 year and 1 day rule in relation to deaths and causation of death. So that, if the Cabinet approves it, will fundamentally change the law and will avoid the situation that we've seen in recent cases, principally the CTV building, where a reason for not prosecuting is that the death happened more than a year and 1 day after what was regarded as the causative factor to those deaths.
In fact, Deputy Solicitor General Brendan Horsley was really critical, I think, of the barrier the law presented. He said it was a complete bar to prosecuting engineers Alan Ray and David Harding, and he called it an anomalous anachronism.
Yeah, I think, look, the law it's an old law, and I think there have been various recommendations in the past to repeal it, but it hasn't happened, and it reflects the fact that, medical science has moved on, and that actually people can linger on, but the causative nature of, when fatality does happen, can be some time after the events that are medically and scientifically the cause of the death.
And that was very much the case with George Siothi, wasn't it, who was king hit. And boy, that's an unfortunate term, because as his family says, there's nothing king about that hit. And he survived for over a year and then died. And the coroner is absolutely unequivocal that he died as a result of blunt force injury. In other words, he died as a result of that assault. But the person who hit him wasn't able to be charged because a year and a day had passed.
Yeah, and that just reflects the point that actually medical interventions now mean that somebody can be very seriously injured and can continue living in one form or another for a considerable period of time. But in his case, there's no question. One massive hit to his brain, causing massive brain injury, he can linger on, and he falls outside that arbitrary statutory deadline, then the person who actually committed the assault is not held to account, and that is wrong, and the law's got to be kept up to date. This should have happened some time ago.
Well, this retrospective of 162 goes. In other words, will you be able to go back and re-examine cases like the CTV or Siothi and his death as a result of a king hit, or will it start basically once the law has changed?
Yeah, if Cabinet gives the approval, because I don't want to preempt a Cabinet decision, but if Cabinet gives its final approval to the legislation, which is all drafted up and ready to go, then it won't be retrospective. One of the important principles for lawmakers when making criminal law or criminal law changes is you don't make them retrospective. People are entitled to know that whatever the law was at the time something happened is the law that will apply to them. But if and when it is passed, then it'll apply from the point at which it is passed into law.
Andrew Little, Justice Minister, talking to us a short time ago.